Happy Wednesday, everybody. We're back with another incredible Wednesday wisdom. Um, 9 words. 9 words completely changed my business, turned things around for me. I'll tell you about that later. I have no doubt they're going to turn things around for you as well. But I had an incredible conversation with an incredible young man earlier yesterday, and we were talking, and I was like, man, I got to get you on here. And it was mind blowing because y'all know that the majority of these podcasts that we do is all about lead generation. It's lead generation, and it's how to put money in your pockets, how to make the phone ring, right? But I had a conversation with an individual that is absolutely crushing it, and he was like, yeah, leads are great, and productivity is great, and making the phone ring is great, but the fortune is in the follow up. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And that reminded me, like, oh yeah, duh, right? We've never actually done one of these. We've never dug deep into what an actual professional, a pro follow-up system looks like. So I have the hero of Huntsville with me. He is crushing it. He's been crushing it for a long time. He's the $100 million man. His production last year over 100 million in volume, well over 300 transactions. He's been crushing it for so long. He's got his own team, and I'll introduce you to him right now. I have the hero of Huntsville, Mr. Adam Olsen. Welcome. Please introduce yourself to the folks that don't know you quite yet.
Hey, Tony, thank you so much for having us on. We're excited to be here and share all of our opinions and insight of what we've done in our business with all of your viewers and everyone that's watching today and throughout, the next couple of weeks and months. So my name's Adam Olsen. I am a broker associate here in Texas, as well as licensed in Louisiana. We've been in the industry about 9 years, and uh, we do both residential land and commercial transactions. And we're excited to share with you our follow-up strategies as well as some online tips to help improve your business and increase your sales.
I love that. And you have a team, right, as well. And you've grown one of the largest teams in the area. And I think that one of the keys to success in that is that you're a master teacher, right? And teaching others and grooming folks that are maybe new to the business, as well as some folks that have some experience under their belt, but they haven't figured out how to quite systemize it yet and produce consistent results over time. So, Adam, what are some of your techniques, your strategies for predicting the outcome, right, and having that predictable business and revenue stream month after month? Because we know real estate is like an up and down thing, right, for most agents.
It is, and I think where people, miss the boat is they're focused on their business. They're making phone calls, sending emails, sending out searches, and then they get three, four, five, 10, 15 deals under contract, and then they're just focused on getting those to the closing table rather than making sure that they get to the closing table, but then also continuing to prospect and make sure that line of business is continuously coming in. So, the biggest thing that we preach at our team is the money is not in the leads, it's in the follow up, and most people fall short, in that follow up. Um, and for us, follow up looks like we get a lead that inquires. Hopefully, we're responding to that lead within 10 minutes or less. And hopefully that's achievable unless you're on an appointment. But we're trying to get that individual, by phone, text, email to respond or sending something out at least within that first 10 minutes. From there, hopefully we've connected, with the prospective buyer or seller. And depending on how that phone call went, we're going to put them on a 3-day, weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly follow-up. So, if I called you and I said, hey, this is Adam Olsen with the Adam Olsen team. I saw that you inquired about possibly selling your home in Spring, Texas. Just wanted to introduce myself, see when there was a good time for us to schedule to come out and take a look at the property, go over our marketing strategies, and see if we're the best fit for you or not. It leaves it very open-ended, very inviting. And from there, depending on how you respond, maybe it's yes, we're ready, let's schedule for Friday. And then we're going to obviously immediately schedule that appointment. But most of the time it's, hey, we've got to do these things. Will you call me back next week or, in 2 weeks or a month, whatever the case may be. generally what I find is people overestimate their time to be ready. So if someone says, "Hey, we're going to be ready in a month," I'm probably going to follow up with that lead in a week and a half, 2 weeks, because generally people will rush through and get those items done and then be ready. I've had it happen multiple times where they say, "Oh, we'll be ready in in a month," or "We're not interested right now, maybe in 6 months," and we follow up 4 months in or a month before that time frame of what they said, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we just signed a contract 3 weeks ago with another agent," and it's because we didn't anticipate the early arrival, as one might call it. So being consistent but also proactive in a sense to where if someone says, "Hey, we're going to be ready in 2 weeks," then hey, if you're going to be ready in 2 weeks, let's go ahead and I'm going to put you on the schedule to follow up next week. That way we can get the photographer on the schedule if you're going to be ready in 2 weeks and we're just ahead of it. um, Aside from that, if it's an individual that's hot, whether they're buying or selling, meaning it could be any day, or maybe it's a situation where they have to move and move quickly, we're going to put those individuals probably on a 3 day or less follow up. And if they're interested in buying a property and we make contact with them, it's a buyer, we make contact with them for the first time. The goal of that phone call is to get them set up on a safe search, an auto search, to where we're automatically sending them properties of interest of whatever their criteria is. And then that way we can stay in front of them. Now, we're not going to just rely on that auto and save search. We're also going to go through and text them links from HAR or whatever your MLS organization is, to view different properties that we may find. But the idea is 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks go by, and I forget to do a search personally for them. It's automatically doing it for me. You would be surprised at the amount of people that I may forget about or another agent on the team forgets about, because it is going to happen, especially when you get busy with a multitude of different leads or you're calling 50, 60, 100 people a day, following up. You're definitely going to forget. But I will say often we have individuals that will text us, respond to an email and say, "Hey, we just saw this house pop up. We want to go look at it." And I'm like, "Oh, dang, I forgot about Jill or Bobby or whoever it was." So that's just kind of a tidbit, to answer that initial question about what we do on our back end.
So let
So,
me ask you this, and let's look at on the buyer side as well as on the listing side. When you get that first lead that comes in, how many people would you say are ready to sell like right now or ready to buy right now versus in the next year?
it I mean, it's hit or miss. We get a lot of both. We get a lot of people that are ready to go, meaning, we're scheduling that listing appointment the same week or the next week. That's a ready to go lead. Maybe they're not scheduling it, for tomorrow type situation, but we've called and they've scheduled, whether it's a week, 2 weeks out, whatever the case may be. We do get a lot of that, but I will say more often than not, it's the 9 month type follow up. And see, we may get people that schedule, but especially on the listing side, we may get people that schedule listing appointments, but then they're not ready to sign at the appointment. I've
Yep.
probably followed up with 10 or 15 this morning that I've been on appointments for in the last 2 or 3 months, that still aren't ready to list, and I follow up with those individuals weekly or bi-weekly, to check on them. So
That's it. And I think that that's so important. If you hear what Adam just said here, more times than not, right? So the majority of cases, people are not ready to pull the trigger just because they drop their name in a lead form on a Facebook ad funnel or on a Zillow or whatever you're doing. Out of all the other lead strategies we talked about, even working your sphere, we've talked about that. But in most cases, those folks aren't ready to pull the trigger right then and there, but they will be. They absolutely will be. So the difference between you getting that business and not is not having the lead, it's converting it, and it's that connection over time. It's the follow up month
exactly.
after month, week after week, and staying front of mind so that when they are ready to pull the trigger, you're the first name at the front of their mind. So I think that that's the key. I
And
think,
and Tony,
yeah, go ahead.
to add to add to that, I would say the average is probably going to be 6 to 9 months, and
Yep.
so it's
Yep.
consistent follow up. And I think the majority of the people miss that. It's a situation where they may follow up once or twice or three times, but then after that, or 3, 4, 5, 6 months go by, they feel like they're bothering that individual, and I can almost assure you, you're not. Um, so
That's a great
they've
segue. That's
forgotten about it
yeah,
just like you.
yeah.
So if you're not following up, you're going to completely miss it.
That's a great segue. That was my next question, right? To kind of explore with you. Um, Probably the thing that I hear most that holds agents back is they don't want to bug, or they don't want to seem pushy, or they don't want to be salesy. They don't want to annoy the lead or the prospect or the client or customer. They just want to kind of play hands off. How do you approach that mindset with your team and you personally? Is that the right mindset, or how do you feel about annoying, quote unquote, annoying people?
I think there's a difference between annoying and doing your job, and so often people mix the two. If someone has inquired about selling a property or purchasing a property, they're expecting obviously someone to call and reach out. It's a situation where, like, this morning, I had an individual that I followed up on. We went on the listing appointment. Probably 6 months ago, and we ended up selling the daughter, a property, a rather large property at that. And anyways, I thought that we had this one in the bag. That there was, if he decided he was going to sell, there was nowhere else he was going. And I followed up with the daughter. I've talked to her probably, once a month over the last 6 months, but I never followed up with him. And let me rephrase that. I did follow up with him once or twice. It was an older gentleman on some acreage, and he wasn't interested in selling, at all. But definitely should have followed up, because this morning I learned that he went ahead and listed the property,
How does that
with
feel?
another agent,
Yeah.
and it sucks, but
Yeah.
it's it's funny in a sense, because even with our rigorous follow-up plan, even with my thought process and how just I myself do things, I still will lose listings, or things will slip through the cracks, um, that we miss. And so that's just a perfect example of regardless of who it is, regardless of your relationship, you should always be on top of those contacts, and you should always follow up. Those people, or individuals in general, expect you to do your job, and they expect a phone call, in a sense. I mean, I've I've got multiple listings now that we have on the market, and I can almost assure you, 25 to 30% of them are individuals where we went on the appointment, they went dormant for a while. We followed up. Sometimes, some of them take over a year on the follow up to get them actually listed. And a lot of times when they go dormant, you'll call them every week or every 2 weeks or every month following up, and then randomly they answer or they respond, and they'll say, "Hey, I got your last, three phone calls, or I've been getting your phone calls every week for the last 3 months. I apologize, Adam. I haven't called you back. I'm not ignoring you. Grandma died 2 months ago. My Great Dane got ran over by a truck. Just everything that you can think of, right, has happened. And just know that when life is happening to you, it's also happening to your clients. And so those individuals probably aren't ignoring you, and if it's a situation where you're not getting a response, most of the time it's not because they don't want to do business with you. It's because either they're busy and they forgot to call you back, or hey, I'm going to call Tony back on Friday, and then something comes up, something happens, and you don't do it. The same thing happens to you in your life. The same thing happens to me in my life, where I've got um, things that I need to get done, or people I need to follow up with, and unfortunately, it just takes me longer to get to, because there are other things that come up that we have to handle. And so we just have to keep that in mind. when we're calling and following up, and you know, like I said, I mean, um, I've had situations when we've been hung up on, or people have gotten rude on the phone and hung up, and we call them right back and say, hey, it sounds like
We
we
got
got
disconnected.
disconnected, something happened, and it's you'd be surprised. I mean, we've turned a lot of those negative situations into positive situations, and it's just how you respond and handle it within the moment. And it's every one of them is different. We're dealing with people. Everyone's thought processes are different, and opinions, and so you just have to take all of that in consideration. And anytime that I ever do anything, whether it's Facebook ads, whether it's making a phone call, um, a lot of times, if it doesn't go the way that I want, I think about it after the fact, and think what I've said or what we posted, and said, why did this post get 150 likes and this one didn't? Why did this seller decide to list with me and this one didn't? Why did he respond that way? If I would have said this, would he have responded differently? And so it's always analyzing, those phone conversations, the ads that you're putting online, whatever it is, to make yourself better.
Yeah. No, I love that mentality. And it's that mentality of a follow-up boss, a follow-up king. And when you make that your business, when you make follow-up your business, you have really decided to really crank the gas up in your business, because you're not just grabbing, like, cherry picking, right? You're not just taking the easy money that drops in your lap. Yes, occasionally you'll get the folks that are like, hey, I want this house, I'm ready to write an offer right now. Okay. But those are
Yep.
rare and few and far between. For the most part, the work comes in, and why it's called work is in that follow-up. Now, I know hard work is not fun or sexy or anything like that. It's hard work, and that's what it's called. But the payoff is huge, and it doesn't have
Yep.
to be that hard. There are ways to leverage the follow-up system. So, once you have a system in mind or system down, like, when I was a team lead, and I had an actual productive team, what they would do is, we do 3 2 1, right? So a lead comes in, you respond to them, within 30 seconds ideally, right? But no more than 3 minutes is what it should be. And if they can't get a hold of them again, it's call them 3 times the first day, 2 times the second day, and then 1 time the third
Yep.
day. And then that's that first week. And then the second week you're going to call them 2 more times, right? 3 2 1. So last week was 3 times, this week 2 times, and then 1 time. And then you put them in the drip campaign, right? And you're constantly following up and trying to stay front of mind. So what tools, what strategies specifically, right? Let's look underneath Adam Olsen team hood. What specifically are you doing and using to leverage, right? Because one of the biggest problems is the overwhelm factor, right? Is
Yep.
because agents are like, oh my gosh, I can't, like, that's too many people, right? If I got 10 people and now you want me to call all of them 3 times a day, and it's too much. And then I got 10 more next month, so now I got 20 people, and it can quickly become overwhelming. So how do you
Yeah.
leverage, what tools, what technologies, what systems do you have in place to leverage and do it on a consistent basis?
So we use Follow Up Boss, and we also have Dingaling, which is a
What
24/7,
what
seven
is it
day
called?
a week. It's
Dingaling.
called Dingaling. Yep, and it's
All right.
it's a 24/7, 7 day a week call answering service.
Wonderful.
So we for the commercial professionals, and then Adam Olsen team, we have two cell phones that agents have. But more importantly, when that phone isn't answered on the second ring, it forwards to it. The reason why I mention that is a lot of those individuals that come in are buyer leads or seller leads.
Right.
And so
Right.
it's just making sure that you don't miss a phone call. So, anyone that has issues, with people calling and not leaving voicemails, this is a very inexpensive way to be able to capture everything coming in and make sure that you don't miss either return phone calls from your follow-up calls or inbound leads on the buyer and seller side. Um, Cost us less than $200 a month for both
Wow.
platforms, and we're averaging 300 listings on the animals and team side and close to 100 on the commercial professionals. So they're answering 5 to 10 calls a day for us, and it's all call based. So very inexpensive. for agents or teams to use to make sure that they're not missing anything. But as far as the other technology, everything that all of our leads go into Follow Up Boss, and we make our notes in there about those leads. We can set up drip campaigns. We can link our emails to it that way. Whenever we're responding, through email or through Follow Up Boss, it's all in there. Basically, the whole transaction, the whole lead process from start to finish can be managed, through Follow Up Boss. And so um, there are definitely some things that we need to get better at, as far as a team and even myself. But as far as strategies on my end to make sure that you're not missing anything, I go through all of my text and phone calls every evening. And I carry around, a notebook or a piece of paper, what I call my to-do list. I generally type out a to-do list. I used to do it for myself every single night with what I need to do for the next day. And those are rather long with, lots of names and different things on it. Um, but I suggest going through your phone, your text messages, your phone call, and your emails every night, because generally I'll go through and I'll realize, hey, I forgot to respond to this person, or I typed out this response and didn't hit send, or I forgot to call, Bobby back. And so I'm just making those references for the next day, but then also going through, like this morning, and I do it often as well. I'll go through and scroll through the whole week, of text messages. And keep in mind, on my side, it could be 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 texts a day to different people. So, you're going through a lot of different messages. Um, I'll even go through and open them just to make sure that I'm not forgetting anything. I didn't promise anyone comps that I forgot to send. And it's just going back through and double checking, that you've done everything that you need to do. And I think that no matter the level of your business, no matter the level of your, income or listing count or team size, it's something that we should all do, because more often than not, we forget things because we don't go back and double check, and we just keep moving along. And the same thing, on the team side, I'll go back and check, our employees' to-do list, and check and make sure things were put up and that they're correct and stuff. Just for, 1,000 different reasons. Every single time we check, whether it's on my side, an employee side, or something that was supposed to be done, or someone that was supposed to be called, we always generally find, a handful of items that need to be addressed. So, and so that's what I do. I go through and make lists. I also put everything in our Google Calendar. So every listing appointment that I went on, the address, the name of the individual, and the phone numbers in the Google Calendar. So not only can I call them, but staff could call them. And then, of course, they're also in our Follow Up Boss. So I kind of use a couple of different angles to follow up. For me, it's easier to go through my calendar and call the ones that I've been on, rather than trying to find them in Follow Up Boss if I don't know them by name, because they're not necessarily categorized as far as, when I went on the appointment. Um, but I think it's important to also note that if I go on a listing appointment, I'm generally going to follow up with that individual. If they didn't sign on the listing appointment, I'm going to follow up with them the next day or the following day after that. Hey, it's Adam Olsen. Just wanted to follow up from our meeting yesterday. Wanted to see if you had any additional questions, or if there's anything else we could help with. Let us know once you're ready to get this on the market, and we'll get it sold for you. Um, those
So
conversations go great. If they're interviewing other agents, a lot of times the other agents aren't going to do that, right? Because they're taking a more passive approach, which is what, 80% of our industry is doing.
yeah. Well, and I was going to ask you that. So, why is it so important to follow up immediately and consistently right after, especially when we're talking about listings? Why do you think that's so important right after that initial listing consultation?
It shows initiative, but then also more importantly, it shows that you're on top of your game. That I think it also shows for an educated individual or someone that has that kind of thought process. Hey, this guy's really on it. If I had a buyer or someone interested in my property, he's going to pick up the phone and return the phone call. He's going to chase that lead because I inquired. He called me immediately. We scheduled the appointment. He's calling me after the appointment. All of those things go hand in hand, and consumers are thinking about it. They're paying attention. They want a true professional that's going to get out and really market their property and get it sold. And if you don't portray that initially with them, then generally their thought process is, if he can't call me back or if he can't return my call, how do I know that he's returning everyone else's call that's calling on my property? And as much as I may not want to do it at 7 o'clock at night, I try and return every phone call by the end of the day. And I can tell you that, Mr. Seller or Mr. Buyer, if I'm having to call them on the way home from a, appointment at 5 or 6 o'clock and it's 7 or 8, they appreciate it. It's obviously not ideal, but it's, the unfortunate truth of the matter.
Bingo. And I think that it's one of the try before you buy kind of scenarios, right? And it gives them a
It is.
sampling because we don't have like free samples, but that is a free sample that you can offer your client. You can show them how hard you're going to work. Every listing agent that goes there that you're competing with, everyone in your market is going to tell them that they're doing a great job and that they're super fast and they're going to follow up and they're going to do that. But the proof is in the pudding, right? So
It
when they
is.
leave, that's when you really get an opportunity to stand out head and shoulders. Everybody's going to have a suit on. Everybody's going to be well polished. Everyone can speak and
Yep.
present great at the listing appointment. But what really separates the pros from the amateurs is their follow up and the consistency behind it. And when the seller sees that, they're like, yeah, okay, this is my guy, right? This is my gal. This is the one that's actually going to do this for us. Same thing on the
Exactly.
buyer side, right? If you're working with the buyer, and you're proactively reaching out and saying, hey, there's a great neighborhood, they just released some properties if it's new construction or something, or hey, I'm super excited to let you know I ran across a great little home, I know you're looking in this neighborhood. Anybody can set someone up on an autoresponder, right? And anybody can kind of press that button. Most don't, by the way, but anyone certainly can. But when you really want to stand out heads and shoulders from the competition, because guess what, they're already getting automated lists from Zillow, most likely. They're already getting
Yep.
automated lists from maybe Redfin or some other site they're on. And maybe they're working with 2 or 3 other agents that you don't know about that's also sending them lists that you don't know, right? They went to the open house last weekend, met with that guy, and that guy's sending them stuff too. So it's important. What's going to make you stand out is when you pick up the phone or shoot them an actual text message. And there's ways to automate all this, by the way. And, I know, Adam's a follow-up boss guy. There's, we get KV Core is another huge one. EXP agents, of course, get that for free. But KV Core is huge. We got a partnership now with Chime. There's so many of these platforms
Yep.
that are out there and these CRMs that are out there that you can leverage to do a lot of these things. But just the notion that you're thinking about them, right? You are their number one
It
priority. You're
is.
on their mind, or vice versa, right? Both of them. So when you shoot them a message and say, hey, this house just came on the market, I want to tell you specifically this house came on the market, it goes way beyond what anyone else is doing, just showing up in their inbox with all the other junk mail. Because I mean, let's face it, in most cases, it is junk mail, right? They're getting stuff from Zillow and Redfin and everywhere else, Realtor.com, and it's more junk. But when it's coming from their agent that is expertly going out, touring, thinking about them while they're driving their other clients around, again, you're going to stand out. Have you noticed that as well, Adam?
Oh yeah, and I think to piggyback on that, it's a lot of it is in the value that you provide to the consumer, right? We get
Big.
calls from individuals as well that'll say, hey, we saw this property online, we're interested, we want to go take a look, but we have an agent. We'll say, well, unfortunately, you need to call your agent
Oh,
and have them set up an appointment. And they'll be like, oh well, they're out of town, this or that or whatever. And so a lot of times what we'll do in those situations, keep in mind those individuals are calling for a reason. And the reason is they're not getting the service that they need from their current agent. That's why they're reaching out. Generally speaking, not always the case, but generally speaking. So what we will do is go in and say, that's perfectly fine, but you still need to reach out to your, agent and schedule through them, have them get you all the information, etc. If you want to send me your email, I'd be more than happy to email you everything that we have on the property. And from there, what we do is we send them everything that we have. We'll go in and do flood maps, a multitude of different things that you should do as an agent. And a lot of times, what we'll get is individuals that call us back and they're like, "Hey, we've been in the market a while, and we've been looking at several properties, but our agent has never sent us anything like this before, and um, we'd rather work with you." All the time. And
Yeah.
I mean, you would be completely surprised, at the amount of people that don't want to spend the extra 2 minutes and go on and pull the flood map. And rather they tell their client that they have to go on FEMA and pull it themselves. That's not obviously what we're here to do. We as agents can easily pull the flood map and send it to the client. And you would be surprised at, like I said, the amount of individuals that inquire, that call us, that claim that they have representation. Like I said, we always tell them to contact their agent, schedule through them, but we will also provide them all the information that we have on it. And a lot of times it comes full circle. So, um, you know, my point behind that is add value. The information is at our fingertips. Give it to the consumers, right? It's free. It's all right there at our fingertips. It's all right there at their fingertips. Pull it, put it in front of it, put it in front of them. They're going to appreciate it. Most agents aren't going to do it. They're not going to take the extra 10 minutes to put that information together and send it out in an email or put it together for that listing appointment they went on because there's 5 other agents interviewing. Take the extra time, do it. I guarantee you it'll come back tenfold. And even if they continue, working with whoever they're with, or maybe they choose another agent, a lot of times they remember it in the future and they send you referrals. I've got a multitude of individuals that we've never even done business with, but we help them look at properties. We help them, with information or whatever the case may be, and it's a consistent referral source just because we took the time to understand their needs and try and help them.
Yeah. And obviously I got to put my EXP broker hat on, right? And
Yeah,
we're talking about folks that don't have an actual exclusive agency agreement signed in
correct,
place, right? So but
correct.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if that's not the case, then absolutely. Now, one
And
of the things that
and and
yeah,
and to add to that too, most aren't going to. It's like with us, we don't get buyer rep agreements up front. I know Tony has
right.
told us to do otherwise, but we generally do them when we're going under contract, on a property, because our philosophy is if we're providing value, the people are going
Yeah,
to work with us.
absolutely.
They're not going to go anywhere else, contract or no contract. Um, on the buyer side anyways, and so yes, obviously we don't interfere. We always tell them, regardless of you know whatever the situation may be, that they need to contact their professional.
Absolutely.
But I find often that when you go above and beyond to help, that they at the end of the day, generally want to work with you.
Right. And in
So
most cases, as I mentioned, I mean, they're already working with multiple agents in many regards anyway. So
yep,
it's rare that they
they
even
are
will acknowledge that and say, "Oh no, it's my first house," right?
exactly.
And then you meet them at the
Yep.
property and you're
Oh
like, "Yeah, I
yeah.
looked at one around the corner." It's like, really? Well, who'd you look at it with, right? And you got to try to ask some more
Oh
questions,
yeah.
right? So
Yep,
we
all the
get those.
time.
So
Literally every single one.
that's right. That's right. So I want to talk about maybe some of your journey, right? Because you
Yeah.
didn't wake up this morning and have 300 some transactions in 12 months and over 100 million in volume and all these agents on your team and absolutely crushing it. This has been a process, right? So walk us through kind of what it looked like and some of the lessons you learned along the way about following up specifically. But at what point did you say, "Hey, I want to do this real estate thing. I'm all in, right? 9 years ago, right?
Yeah, so we got in a little over 9 years ago, and straight out of high school at 18, and was actually recommended by a family member to get in. You know, it took us 7 months to sell our first property, and from there, for yeah, crazy, huh? And from there forward, you know, one, two, three a month. It wasn't until we got a builder client, which obviously um, you know furthered our listing count, that we really started picking up traction on the listing side. But more importantly, back then, obviously with the age and being new to business and stuff like that, there were a lot of hiccups. Um, a lot of leads, that were missed and gone to the wayside because there were no follow-up plans in place. There was no understanding of that. You thought that people called and you just went out and showed them type situation, and that was it, right? Um, but I would say over the years, it's obviously progressively gotten better. Um, we got our first building client probably a year and a half to 2 years into the business, and from there we just never really looked back. We've always had a large uh, listing count since then. We believe that those that control the listings control the market.
I've heard that
And
somewhere. Yeah,
yes, yes, and it's and it's true. I mean, when you've got your signs out, people are calling. Same online, you're running multiple ads, in an area. You really start to control an area, and anyone can do it. It's the persistent and consistent ones that win, and it goes back to the follow up, and it goes back to, like I just said, being persistent and consistent. With builder clients, you may be chasing them for a year and a half, 2 years, and have multiple meetings before you ever see your first opportunity to get a listing or anything.
right.
And a lot of people are not that persistent or consistent. And same with what we were talking about earlier, on the listing side. We have multiple that we met with 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, that we continuously follow up with, and eventually they end up listing. And so it's persistency and consistency at all levels. Not only on follow up, but improving all aspects of your business. The follow up is a key component, just like the leads are a key component. There's no follow up if you don't have leads, so it all goes hand in hand. Um, along with everything that we're doing. And so it's being consistent on all fronts. It's being consistent, on Facebook. It's being consistent on Google. It's being consistent getting reviews. All of it goes hand in hand, and it just multiplies as the years go on, right? Now, when people look us up on Zillow and they see 500 reviews, it's a much different opinion or thought than if we had 10 or 5 reviews. But 9.5 years ago, we had zero. So it's being consistent and getting all of the items done, not just one or two. And I think that agents often focus on one or two things that they're good at, and they try and pass along the other items, or maybe they don't want to do it, or whatever the case may be. But it's not the best option. Even myself, with having teams, or with having a team and multitude of different employees, I still do video walkthroughs of a lot of the properties. I still post on our Facebook page. I still run ads on our Facebook page. I still send out review requests. I was in the office this morning, calling from 8 to when I hopped on this for listing appointments and buyer leads. We're still calling on builders, both employees and myself. We're still, I still reach out to agents, right? Where the point is I'm
All right. Well, I think we lost you, Adam. All right, you may need to pop off and back on. Oh,
Yeah.
I think we got you back. There you go. Okay.
So yeah, I don't know what happened there, but you know, the point behind that was is although we have individuals in place to do those items, although we have multitude of agents and employees that help with a lot of those tasks, you still have to be consistent in them and making sure that either A, they're being done or that you're doing it. Last week I listed two properties myself, right, because it had to be done, or you're putting up builder listings, till 9, 10 o'clock at night because it had to be done. And I think a lot of agents miss that boat. They want the success, they want the multiple listings, they want the multiple closings, um, but they only want to do one portion of what needs to be done to get there rather
Right.
than all fronts. And we hear it often too because of our online and social media marketing presence, where people will call and say, "Hey, Adam, I want some direction on that." And you lay it out for them, and they're like, "Well, I just want to hire a company to do that." I'm like, I mean, that you
Wrong
can
mindset.
certainly do that, but it's
Yeah.
not, yeah, it's a wrong mindset. And
And
so,
it's not you,
uh,
right? I
and
mean,
it's not
social
you.
media is about you. That's kind of
It
the point, and
is.
that's why a lot of brands honestly struggle on social media, and they're still trying to figure it out in many regards in terms of how to get a return on their multi-million-dollar social media investment. Besides just brand awareness, yeah, certainly brand awareness, but when it comes to increasing revenue, increasing profit using social media, it's tough to do, right? Because
It
because
is.
it's
Yep.
it's designed to be an individual basis, right? Where you're sharing yourself and letting people see, letting your customers see, clients, potential clients see who you are. And there's no way to really kind of automate that part of it, right? You have to show your true and authentic
Exactly.
self. So
Yep.
I
No,
love
you
that.
do.
So
So,
walk me through. Oh, go ahead.
no, you're good. What were we saying?
So you mentioned builders quite a bit. We had Andrew Franklin on and Jimmy Franklin to kind of talk through some of that stuff, but I want to hear from an alternate perspective as well from you. um how do you approach a builder, right? Because that's really, you mentioned that's what kind of hockey stick your business and took you to that next level, and that's what's one of the things that's been sustaining. And we had Dayton Schrader too. I mean, he does a lot of that stuff. So
Oh, yeah.
um yeah, tell me about that process, right? So what does it look like? What is the value proposition? How do you pitch a builder on, like, hey, let me list this property for you, or hey, hosting open houses, or whatever the case is? What's that combo like
So,
back
so
then and then now today?
yeah. So, I mean, we've always had a large following on Facebook and Instagram. So we really push um, basically what we do differently from what other agents or large teams do or have access to. And so for us, a lot of that is social media and the online. But more importantly, I think that agents a lot of times they focus on the true nuts and the bolts of the business. But when you're dealing with someone in the business, like a builder, um, we all do the same stuff at the end of the day. And so
In
it's
their
what we,
mind, yeah.
in their mind, it is. We all do the same things at the end of the day. So what makes us different is either A, what we do independently that no one else does or has access to, or B, what's important to that individual or builder. I've got a private, builder, and they're a great organization. But what's important to them, aside from the social media and the online marketing, is they do a lot of events for foster adoption places and with different churches and stuff. And so we try and be as involved in that as possible. And matter of fact, I had a lender yesterday call me and said, "Hey, Adam, how can I get in with this individual?" And I said, "Look, everyone's going to come in and say how they can do it better, faster, cheaper, but they always forget what's important to the individual." And so with that particular client, that's what's important. That's what I would stress and focus on. With with another large builder or Lennar or DR Horton or this, depending on who you're dealing with in that region. A lot of times they're run by region with those larger builders. So uh, whoever the sales manager is or the VP, etc., they may have a different motive or a different idea. Maybe what's important to them is that they're getting all the leads from their listings and it's not going, to the agents on your team. So how can we set up a process, to make sure that that happens? Maybe it's a situation where what's important to them is helping their salespeople, increase their online uh, presence better and helping their salespeople sell more homes. So maybe we should, hold some classes or meet with their salespeople one on one to help them build their social media profiles or whatever. It's more of a case by case basis, just like your clients, right? What's important to one is not important to the other, and vice versa. And so, a lot of times the number one goal is to get the meeting. And if we can get the meeting, we can figure the rest out. And you know, a lot of times we go in these meetings not knowing anything and not having a plan at all. And the plan is developed in the meeting by asking questions of what's important to you, what's your current deal with your current agent, because obviously we're going to have to meet or beat it, right? And then from there you come up with your own idea of what you're going to do kind of on the spot. Um, you know, so with some builders, they pay flat fees. Some builders, it's a zero fee because they're referring you buyers or other listings or individuals that come through the door. Sometimes it's just a courtesy situation where you're doing it for free and hopefully you pick up some nuggets along the way. And then other instances, you're getting a small, percentage on it. And you never know what someone is paying or doing until you obviously find out, right? We've seen Fortune 500 builders or larger builders, maybe not Fortune 500, but ones that do several hundred homes a year that are paying, 1.5%, which is
Wow.
pretty high for someone of their caliber, right?
Where
I've
do I
I've
sign
been
up?
in.
Which ones are those again? Because I need
Yeah,
to
exactly. I know. And I
I need to
had
make some
another one.
calls.
Yeah, right. I had another one that does quite a bit that pays, a flat fee. So, and then you have others that are the same size that, their current situation is they don't pay anything. So the idea behind that is you don't want to go in and sell yourself short. If you have a large builder and they're paying 1.5%, obviously that's quite a bit, especially when you're doing a couple
With
hundred a
volume.
year.
Yeah,
So, it's a situation where you could come in and really, really probably save them a lot of money to where they can do a lot more, but more importantly, bring a lot more value to the table. And that's what we try and stress on is the value that we bring to the table, which is, whether it be open houses or helping their salespeople, um, doing videos of their model homes, taking photos of their inventory, whatever the case may be, we want to bring as much value as possible. And when you come from that um, aspect, it's a much different scenario. And I think too, more often than not, agents are focused on the sale from a standpoint of scarcity. But when you approach it at a situation of I don't need your business, you need me, and not in a cocky way, but it's not going to hurt me whether or not you do anything with me or not. I don't care. It's a different meeting and it's a different level of respect and it's a different just overall emotion, throughout all of that. Whereas most are coming in and it's a hard sale and they're coming from a place of scarcity.
that's right.
And that can be powerful not only with builders but also consumers because most individuals are just in it for the sale. A lot of times when I'd be on appointments, people would say, "Man, I bet you're tired of us." And my response was, "Look, Tony, don't take this the wrong way, but I could care less if you buy a property or not. Whether you buy a property is not going to make or break me. I don't mean it in that way. But what I mean by that, Tony, is I know that if I do my job, whether you buy a property or not, anytime you want to do something in real estate, you're going to call me. Plus, you're going to refer me all of your friends and family. and they just, I mean, it's like a deer in the headlights because no one comes from that,
Yeah.
point of view, generally speaking. It's always from a point of scarcity and, oh, we got to get this done. And, you know, whatever the case may be. So,
That's it. That's it. I love that mindset.
yeah.
So thank you so much, Adam. You have completely opened the doors to your business, opened the hood, checked the oil, the whole thing. So we appreciate that. Where can folks get a hold of you? Let's say somebody's just razzle dazzled like I am. If I was in Huntsville, I'd want to be hooked up with the Huntsville Hero, and I'd be like, hey, how can I be a part of the team? How can I connect with you? How can I learn more from you? Where can they find you?
So obviously, you can find us on social media, the Adam Olsen team, or the commercial professionals, as well as on our websites. But our office line is 936-277-7117. And then our cell phone is 936-689-9123. You can call or text that number. The commercial professionals phone number would be on that website. I don't know it off the top of my head. But we have multiple opportunities for agents and brokers throughout the state of Texas. If you're looking to join, a top team in the area, we'd love to talk with you. We do sales really all over the place: Waco, College Station, and then our primary market, which would be more Huntsville, Centerville, Trinity, into downtown Houston. And same with the commercial professionals. We hold about 75 to 100 commercial listings at any time. The majority of that is myself and one or two other agents. So there's definitely a huge need for commercial agents and brokers on the commercial professional side. So if you're at all interested, we'd love to chat with you.
And you got the leads, right? I've
Yes, we
Adam
got the
shared his
leads, we
leads with
got the
me. We were
listings.
working on something else, and I was like, "Oh my
Yeah,
god, there's like thousands of leads here. Like, how do you work all this stuff?" So,
yes.
yeah, you're
And
generating leads like crazy on the commercial side and on the residential side. So, if I was there, like I said, I'd be hooked up with you for sure.
oh yeah, and more importantly, we had the full back-end staff: listing coordinator, transaction coordinator, full-time photographer, Malachi that runs all of our online and social media ads. I mean, we're a full turnkey operation from start to finish.
Rock on. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Like, share, subscribe, smash that bell, that notification icon, so that every time we do these live, we have our other events with other brokers where they go live on our channel. So hit that bell so that you can see whenever we do that. And when you're looking to get a hold of me, y'all already know the best way to reach me. Either on LinkedIn, you can hit me on LinkedIn if you're not with EXP. If you are with EXP, workplace chat. Workplace chat is going to be the best place to reach me. So thanks. You all have a wonderful, incredible day, rest of your week, and we will see y'all next week. Thanks again, Adam. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You be
Bye,
safe.
y'all.
Thank you.